Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Nonprofit Show. If you're watching us live in our archive, listening to us on a podcast, we're nearly 26 different platforms. And our guest today, Samar Haddad, is going to talk about when you're using a platform, whether it's volunteer services management, donor management, accounting, any of your fintech. What can you do to get the most from those platforms? And Samar, I was telling you in the green room, we talk about tech all the time on the Nonprofit Show, but we've never had an episode just dedicated to this process of once you've made the commitment and spent the money, how do you manage it so you can get the best situation? And so I'm really excited to have you with us. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
It's going to be a really interesting conversation. Already, like I mentioned in the green room, Samar has said some things where I was like, "Oh, duh! I didn't think about that." And even in my own business, holy moly, everything's gone to a platform, everything that we use. And so this is a really cool conversation of how we're going to work. Another thing that's really cool for us here at the Nonprofit Show are these amazing partners that we have. And they include Bloomerang, American Nonprofit Academy, Staffing Boutique, JMT Consulting, Interim Executives Academy, Your Part-Time Controller, and Fundraisers Friday. I'm Julia C. Patrick, CEO of the American Nonprofit Academy, and I am delighted to have Samar Haddad with us. She's a manager of client experience over at JMT Consulting. And already you've taught me some things, Samar, that I'm like, okay, I needed to hear that. And so this is going to be a really cool conversation. But before we get going, I want to know what you do at JMT and how you have learned and you can advise us on these things.
I've been at JMT for almost 4 years now, and I've grown into the role of managing the client success team. What you can expect from the client success team is we're introduced during onboarding, and we guide the clients through the process, create space to have critical conversations, be strategic, get people out of their day-to-day and make sure that they're realizing the full potential of the solutions that they're paying for, because these solutions are not getting any more affordable, and we just want to make sure our clients can benefit from them as much as possible.
Yeah, it's really interesting because it's the way that we have to do business. And I think for a lot of organizations, we think, oh, we just give them our debit card or the credit card, and then they give us a code, and then it's all good, and then we forget, or we have to learn the hard way that maybe we need help. And so one of the things that you advise us to start is to get assigned to somebody. I mean, I guess make sure that you already know who it is that you're going to be working with, right? Before you get down in the weeds and have a problem.
I think partner solution is just as critical as solution selection. So, take that seriously. Interview your partners. Ask them how they approach support. Do you have a dedicated point of contact? What's the process? How often do you get to meet with your support partner? What does ad hoc support look like? What are the standards that they're going to uphold? Just really kind of get you from that, crawl, walk, run in adoption of your solution.
Right. Another thing I would add in, and maybe this is coming from the School of Hard Knocks, but I think it would be really interesting to also understand what the time zone is. Because I know with some of the platforms we use, they're based overseas, and we in many cases will have a 9-hour delay, and it can be frustrating.
Our team is all stateside, so we are working on just most of our team is in Central. Some of us are spread out in Eastern time, so you're getting that critical support. Our SLAs range from about 4 to 6 hours, so you're not going to have the delays you have with others.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting thing. And as you know, when you have a problem, it can be a minor problem, but man, it just seems like the weight of the world is on your shoulders and you can't move forward with anything, right? I mean, it's just the most frustrating thing. And then everybody, I think, can quickly become unhappy. So
Exactly.
I want to talk a little bit more about this structured onboarding and training up front. Talk to us about that because I've learned the hard way with my business that those people that are selling you the product, they're not the ones that are going to help you when you have a problem. And it seems like it can just become another frustration. How do you see this playing out?
We do have we do have a specialist model, and we kind of you want to look for a partner that does have that, where you're although you're dealing with somebody for sales, but there's going to be a support team, there's going to be a client success team, there's going to be project managers that are going to help you along the roadmap. And onboarding and training doesn't just happen once. The solutions are continuously evolving, needs are evolving, regulations are evolving. Not-for-profits are subject to so much scrutiny, and they have to deliver in order to continue operations, and they need a lot of support, and you need to find the partner that's going to get you there.
It's a really interesting comment that you made, and I had never really thought of it that way, is that the products evolve, our needs evolve. It's an interesting thing. I feel like a lot of times when we buy into these platforms, it's hard for us to look forward down the road. It seems like we're buying for the immediate situation. I don't know. Do you see that at all, or is that just me?
I do, and part of the role of the client success manager is to make you comfortable with discomfort and give you some confidence in the partner you've chosen to get you through those tough times while you're, some in not-for-profits, we have lean teams, and the folks that are doing the day-to-day are also, driving the implementation forward on their end. And we understand that, and we build that into our process.
Mm-hmm. So do you find that the clients that you work with in your case, that they understand that things are going, I love you use this word, evolve, that things are going to change?
We definitely try to level set that, and I hope you find a partner that does that for you. It's great to promise a seamless experience, but I am a realist at the end of the day, and that's all you're going to get from me. I'm going to let you know it's going to be tough, but I'm here for you, and we're going to do this together.
So this is just something you said that, pardon me, you got me choked up, Samar. When you talk about this training and onboarding, you kind of hinted that it's not a one and done, that to go back to your word again, it's going to be an evolution.
Mm-hmm.
What should we expect? Is this like, you know, we need to be open to meeting 3 times, or we're going to need 3 months, or should we plan? I guess is the ultimate question about this.
Our team has a minimum cadence of quarterly meetings,
Oh.
and they align with your renewals. It aligns with, um, different points in every business cycle of not-for-profits. The important ones are close, audit, and budgeting, and we try to align with all of those needs. Um, and like I said, the solutions are continuously evolving, and things are coming up that we want to leave space to address with you, because those day-to-day operations, they don't stop. And a good partner is going to take you out of that day-to-day and help you think strategically, get you the data you need to make those decisions. It's about voluntary management versus involuntary management. And that's where we want to take our clients.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I think I would imagine, and again, I'm speaking from my own lens of, you only know what you know. And it seems like whenever you adopt new software, um, you you have to kind of change your mindset. You You have to plan for a little bit of extra time and frustration. And then oftentimes you start learning a product and you're like, oh my gosh, it can do this. And then it changes the trajectory of how you use that platform. And I'm wondering how we can kind of plan for that. Do you see that that's something that we can even think about, or is that just a personal experience?
I think with the right partner and the right benefits plan to support, a lot of partners will have different tiers of service depending on the needs of and the complexity of a specific client, and just kind of finding that sweet spot that fits with your budget and fulfills your needs is where you want to look, and just talking to different partners and seeing what's out there. And continuously getting the value out of your investment in those ERP, CRM, payroll, HR, and just all the different auxiliary automation platforms that you can opt into. It's not a one-time thing. It's not just plug and play. You consistently have to evolve and grow with the systems. We try to adapt the systems to a client's best practices versus making the client adapt to each specific system, and just kind of create something holistic that makes sense for the team.
It's a really interesting comment that you just made, and it leads me to kind of my next question, because nobody works just with one platform. We all work with different things, and it seems to me that we need to kind of understand and define that product expectation, but then also understand how it might work or conflict with other things that are going on, and other things that we're using. And I'm wondering how that occurs. I mean, is it just accidental? Um, I know in my business, a lot of times we've adopted a new platform, and then it interferes with other platforms. And it's like behind the scenes. It's nothing that we can undo, but we can see that things are messed up a little bit. And so I'm wondering, like, how we go through this ecosystem, because frankly, it's really easy to get frustrated.
I can see that. So bringing in your partner is early in the process and leveraging the knowledge and the connections that we have. This is something that we do all day, and we often, there's big pushes for AP automation right now. We've experienced, lots of integrations and figuring out what your ecosystem will allow. So there might be a product that's great and has a lot of functionality, but does it conflict with, your requirements, your workflows that you currently have in place? Is HIPAA a factor? Is multi-currency a factor? There's so many factors, and a knowledgeable partner is going to guide you in that selection process and kind of help you, like, again, establish what success looks like, establish the criteria that will lead you to an ultimately successful project, and kind of keep you from those pitfalls of investing in something that's not going to serve you.
So I would imagine, I mean, I know GMT works a lot in the fintech, um, you know, environment. That's really what you all do. I'm wondering how prepared you see clients understanding this process, understanding that there are going to be other things coming at you, not just the change of the platforms that you're serving, but just the overall, you know, structure of other things that might change. I mean, we were laughing about in the green room. You defined yourself as someone who's in Zoom jail all day long. I have, we don't use Zoom anymore for our broadcasts, but I use Zoom in just general business. And I can remember early on that we would adopt new things from other platforms, and our Zoom systems would change subtly, but they would change. So I'm wondering, like, how you can plan or understand or even be aware that you are going to have some of these interfaces that might conflict.
So most solutions have a very stringent release schedule, and our knowledge of that schedule, we put out webinars that support that. Generally speaking, when the ERP systems generally have quarterly release schedules, and then within 2 weeks of the release, we release a webinar that addresses all the pertinent changes for our not-for-profits, because we only work with not-for-profits. So all of the material and information that we cultivate is geared towards serving that base.
Right. Using that language, understanding that workflow. You brought up compliance. I mean, just the HIPAA issues alone. That's a huge thing that I think most people would not understand how perilous it is, let alone donor management, the management of donor information. I mean, that's some scary stuff.
Restricted grant funding is huge too. So
yeah, really, really interesting. So when we talk about product expectations, how do we level set that? Because it seems to me, I don't care what you're buying, if you're buying design software or you're buying fintech, as we mentioned early on, there's a sales issue that you're going to just flip a switch and everything's going to be rainbows and unicorns. And then you get frustrated because it's not. And how do we kind of protect ourselves from that?
we build in a lot of time for discovery, and it's kind of not like a one-time discovery. It's constantly reviewing if-then scenarios that would kind of uncover any pitfalls. We're not leaving ourselves open to surprises. Nobody likes surprises.
No, it's such a frightening thing, and it always happens on deadline too.
Yep.
And you've got people lined up at your door saying, "Hey, we need this yesterday." Yeah, really, really an interesting dynamic. And then I think, especially in your world and the clients that you're working with, they're dealing with finance and money, and that's like a whole nother level of stress, right?
Absolutely. Especially in the current climate.
Yes. Definitely in the current climate. One other question I have before we move on. You mentioned about the evolution of our platforms that we use and the engagement that we have in a changing environment. How often should we expect the software that we engage with to change or be modified or have significant new releases? Like, what do you say about that? Like, what should that look like?
Well, we encourage our clients to get involved with the communities for the solutions that they engage with. You can always recommend, upgrades you want to see, but generally speaking, we do see more of a quarterly cadence for the upgrades, and just kind of keeping up with the new functionality, bringing things that you're doing outside of your systems into the systems for full visibility for your entire team is often one of the most overarching goals we see when clients engage with us. I think when I came on, with AJMT, it was in the wake of the pandemic, and people were reeling from rebuilding teams and rebuilding processes. And, a lot of these solutions, developed during this time to address some of the issues people were experiencing with, all the decentralization of teams.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, because it's also, I would say, a new time for engaging with cloud-based anything and understanding subscription models for this technology. For a lot of organizations, this is a new dawn.
Absolutely. And, find a partner that understands how your subscriptions work. They find somebody who has productive relationships with the partner solutions that they're supporting, and meet with them, utilize them, leverage them to help get the most value and, keep your costs under control, because ultimately our mission is to support our clients' mission. They're doing great work. We want to increase their reach. We want to take them out of the kind of any manual practices and allow them to like have a bird's eye view of their operations and continuously improve that.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's really an interesting thing. You brought up something that is fascinating, is understanding how we can all do better. I would imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you have to really understand what a specific nonprofit's mission and work is so that you can help guide them, because chances are you're going to be guiding them about other people's products as well, right? I mean, because nothing just works by itself. How do you
Absolutely.
navigate that?
It's just about investing in our team and continuously educating our team. We have I'm sorry, I stumbled over that. We have enablement sessions that we engage in. We have a whole team that just manages our partnerships and makes sure that our team is equipped with the most up-to-date knowledge of the products. And, whenever we identify efficiencies, if we can build them into our onboarding process, we do.
Interesting. That's got to be a moving target.
It is. It's constant.
Yeah, I mean, amazing. And I think that it's just going to be amped up and ramped up with the changes that we are seeing right now with this new administration. Um, if you talk about just grant management at this point, everything's changed in terms of how we look at that, even.
Absolutely. Folks are having to reforecast constantly. So having an agile budgeting system, getting yourself out of Excel, and having something that can remove human error is key to being able to be agile and adaptable in today's economic climate.
Yeah. Okay. I know you're like the third person this week that's like brought up the Excel thing. And, like, okay, you got to move beyond that. You've got to move beyond that. And so I'm kind of chuckling because I'm like, okay, I'm hearing this message from the universe. I need to think bigger for my business. Well, we don't have a lot of time left, but I want to kind of get your perspective, Samar, is somebody who's in the trenches on this. And it goes to getting resolution for problems, and compliments. It's not just always about complaining, but it's also about complimenting. You said something really interesting, that you can, as a user, you can speak up and say, if this product did that, this would be magical, or this is how I see the evolution of a part of this product. I love that you said that, because what a valuable piece of information to get from, boots on the ground. But talk to us about complaining and complimenting. It kind of goes back to the start of our conversation about the relationship you have. What do you see for anybody investing in a new platform?
So having a client success team, or a dedicated point of contact at your partner, is going to give you the ability to kind of find a safe space to voice your concerns while keeping the implementation on the rails. Often, people, like I said, are doing their day to day and they're implementing. So emotions run high, folks are stretched. Having, dedicated time and dedicated people to kind of hear you out, help you reevaluate your needs, and kind of continuously conduct discovery that is useful to what the final product needs to look like to be successful with your team, and get everybody to adopt the solution, because often the selection process is made at the highest level, and it's rare that you see somebody who brings in the boots on the ground to help with selection. So having that proper discovery, having that client success team, and having a space to kind of voice your concerns and keep the relationship with your implementers productive and constructive, is part of having that client success channel to tap into.
Yeah, I love that you said that, because you're right. That wasn't something we addressed, but that's true. A lot of times the decision, and I would argue this is just in business management, whoever gets chosen to deal with the rental space or risk management or, you know, buying office supplies isn't always the person that ends up using or administrating that. And then you have the potential for a lot of conflict or dissatisfaction. And so it's very interesting that you brought that up, is not only how is the platform going to work, but who is the platform going to work with, right?
Absolutely.
How's that going to look? This has been really interesting. I've really enjoyed having you on and having you talk to us, because this is the new world, and this is the new structure that we have. I mean, we are working with more and more platforms, and it's not going to go away. It's just going to become more and more part of the process. And I feel, Samar, that those that can understand it and really navigate that relationship and navigate the process of how we do these things, they're going to move ahead. And those that don't are going to be left behind.
Absolutely. It's the teams that are uncomfortable, that are comfortable being uncomfortable are the ones that are going to succeed. So, just we're all stretched. We just need to find the right people to help us, to get to the finish line.
Yeah, very, very interesting. Well, before we let you go, I want to talk with you briefly about the Innovate Conference coming up. It's something that JMT Consulting does every year. You've done it for almost 2 decades. Is that correct?
Yep, there was a brief pause during the pandemic, but we're back stronger than ever. We're expecting over 200 attendees. And if anything we've talked about today resonates, there's still time to register and join us in Nashville.
Well, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be conducting a panel session. I'm also going to be on a panel. And I think it's a really interesting opportunity to get with people that are involved in the financial management of an organization, but more importantly, the technological management of that aspect. And I was really fortunate to be with you last year. You were in Boston, and it was riveting. The people that were there from all over North America, doing really fascinating, I'm going to say pretty stressful work, because they're managing the money of these organizations, all different sizes. And it was just really interesting to learn about their work, candid, their pain points, how they came up with solutions. I really, really enjoyed it. It unlocked a lot of new perspectives for me.
And that's what you're going to find, a lot of camaraderie, regardless of what vertical you're in the not-for-profit space. People have similar challenges. They have similar resource restrictions. They have similar regulations that they're dealing with. And it's just great to commiserate and, pick up some new tools for your toolbox so that you can, your team can do more. And, you can be the champion for change management in your organization.
I love that. I think that's beautifully said, because at the end of the day, that's the type of leadership we need to move forward, especially where things are right now. We're going to even be called more to do that, right? And so I love that you said that, because that's really, really powerful. Samar Haddad, Manager of Client Experience at JMT Consulting. I can already tell from this conversation that we've had, Samar, that you have the right temperament, the right cadence, and I'm going to throw in the word compassion to deal with people going through this change.
I'm not a techie, but I understand what technology, and I appreciate what technology can do for organizations. And if you can leverage that with all of the knowledge and experience that your team has, amassed during their time together, then, there's no limit.
Right. Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, check out jmtconsulting.com. You can learn more about the Innovate Conference coming up here just in a couple of weeks, May 5th through 7th, again in Nashville. And you can learn more and more about the types of training, the types of interfaces that the JMT family does. It's very, very interesting. And now is the time to really embrace this because it's not going away. And it's going to be something that, like I said, and I think Samir, you mentioned this as well, is that those that are comfortable with being uncomfortable and can take on some of those challenges, they're going to be the ones that come ahead. So it's been great to have you on talking about this. You know, we have this amazing partnership with so many people on our platform, and they include Bloomerang, American Nonprofit Academy, Staffing Boutique, of course, our friends at JMT Consulting, Interim Executives Academy, Your Part-Time Controller, and Fundraisers Friday. If you go to Venture to Nashville, look us up. We will be there. And Samar, you'll be there too.
Absolutely. Come find me, or I'll email me and I'll find you.
I love that. That's wonderful. Well, as we end each and every episode of the Nonprofit Show, we leave you with this message, and that is to stay well so you can do well.